Hi, welcome back to the Common Sensei. And today we're going to be having a look at a useful theory about conspiracy theories. And what we'll find is that conspiracy theories, I say, are no different from workplace gossip. They emerge from the same toxic behavior that can destroy a team. They just feel more important. And conveniently, for those spouting them, they're harder to prove. And you'll see why I say that. There's a Sufi wisdom tale in which somebody bumps a person who is holding a cup of coffee. Let's say it's you. You spill the coffee. Why did you spill the coffee? Because somebody bumped me, you would typically answer. No, goes the response of the Sufi tale. You spilled the coffee because there was coffee in your cup. If there was tea, you would have spilled tea. Whatever is inside your cup is what will spill out. The moral of the tale is that when life comes along and shakes you, which it inevitably will, whatever is inside you will spill out. If you have a peaceful mind filled with understanding, then peaceful understanding will spill out. If you have a paranoid, suspicious mind filled with vitriol and thoughts of revenge, then vitriol and revenge will spill out. So, our task is to ask ourselves, what's in our cup? Well, when life challenges you, what spills out of your cup? That's your answer. Life provides the cup. People bring the bumps. And you can choose what to fill your cup with. So as a leadership coach, I specialize in working with teams. Some are functioning well and just need a little boost. Others have a toxic environment. And very often I find that even in those toxic teams, nobody's cup is deliberately filled with poison. The toxicity is simply down to a lack of self-awareness and people unknowingly taking what I call the low road of reacting instead of the high road of responding. And I'll explain that in a minute. When those people see what they're doing, they naturally take the high road. They empty their cups of whatever poison they might be carrying and fill it with something better. Trust, curiosity, willingness, and the team dynamic improves. Sometimes, however, you do get people who don't want to take the high road, who fight to keep their cups filled with paranoia and suspicion, with misery and bitterness, or with anger and vengeance. Of course, they don't see it like that. For them, the world really is the way they say it is, and so they feel entitled to hold on to their poison. I'm always interested in how my coaching experience and expertise could be translated for broader social relevance. It's what this channel is all about. And over time, as I encountered many dysfunctional and sometimes toxic teams, I started to see the parallels between what was happening in those teams, inside organizations, and what shows up in the wider world as conspiracy theories. After all, we all have our conspiracy theory friend, don't we? The one who drives us crazy with their absolute certainty about what's really going on and how ignorant you are for not seeing it when it's so obvious. Their cups are filled with that same paranoia, suspicion, and so on. They have an additional cup of dead certainty, which they spill quite often. They're so full of themselves, they need two cups. And sometimes we can get sucked into that vortex ourselves. I've been there myself. I had my time down the rabbit hole. It was very dark. I nearly lost my mind, and so I emptied my cup and refilled it with better stuff. I took the high road. And let me explain what I mean by that, the low road and the high road. Taking the low road looks like this. Something happens or doesn't happen, and we make it mean something. For example, somebody, and we're talking in the work context now, somebody says something unskillful or doesn't include us in an email or makes a decision without consulting us. And we make it mean something, usually something personal. They don't respect me, or they're trying to sideline my team. It's always personal. It's always about me, my or mine, my job, my team, my reputation. Arising out of this come further assumptions. They're after my job. That's the real reason. Then we go home and complain to our spouse. We bend their ear because we know they'll support us. When they do, we use that as justification to get riled up further. The next day, back at work, we talk to someone else, and so the gossip starts. When someone takes the low road, they're being reactive, meaning they're not aware, they're reacting automatically. On the low road, they're also in victim mode. Everyone else is to blame for their problems, not them. Their cups are filled with blame and denial. They filter out contradictory evidence. And when somebody challenges them, they explain, defend, justify. I'm telling you, I know, I saw them do this, or I heard so-and-so say that. They refuse to do what David Bohm said. We referred to that in the previous video. What he said is essential for constructive dialogue. They refuse to suspend their assumptions, to hold out their assumptions for examination. And, as we saw in the previous video, being right can be addictive. The ego loves to be right, and the brain gets a dopamine hit from winning a point. Even if it's only in your own mind that you've won the point, the brain doesn't care. It still enjoys the hit. So it's very satisfying for the ego and the brain to be right. And guess what? Inside one's own bubble, while they're nursing their cup of certainty, it's easy to be right. They just have to deny all evidence to the contrary and cling to their assumptions as the absolute and only truth. Now, nobody does that consciously, of course, which is why my workshops are effective. Because once they see that they're taking the low road, most people I encounter strive to get off it. They empty their cups willingly and refill them with something better, something more useful, constructive. They take the high road. And as I said earlier, there are those who don't want to see, who don't want to empty their cup or take the high road. They don't want to hold out their assumptions for examination. And so that was all in the workplace context. Now to return to our conspiracy theorists. Can you see that they too are on the low road? Can you see that their cups are filled with the same stuff? The difference is that their dopamine hits are bigger. And why? Because their issues are so much bigger. Can't you see? Not for them, petty office politics, no mere corporate gossip mongers or our conspiracist friends. No. In their minds, they're making broader political, social, even global events mean something. Remember, in the workplace, something happens, we make it mean something. Yeah, they make global political and social events mean something. And so here's the conspiracy theory low road journey. Something happens, as I said, and our person makes it mean something. So, for example, with the Donald Trump assassination attempt, the Dems did this because they know they can't beat Trump. There's the meaning. Then they make it personal. They want to take our country away from us. And with that come the assumptions. The cops let the shooter onto the roof because ABC. Did you see that person in the audience with a white cap? They knew what was going to happen because they moved out of the way just moments before the shot was fired. See, it was a setup. And so, with their cup filled with certainty, they go out and complain and gossip. The definition, by the way, of complaint is that it's a problem statement, not a solution statement. And gossip is sideways communication. You're making the problem statement to someone who is not directly involved in the situation. And of course, our conspiracists filter out contradictory evidence. On top of which, if they encounter, or if anyone is foolish enough to challenge them, so if they encounter challenge or anyone is foolish enough to challenge them, they explain, justify, and defend. Just like in our workplace example. They spill their cup of certainty, and they refuse to suspend their assumptions, to hold them out for examination, if you remember in the last video. So I hope you can see that conspiracy theories are no different from corporate gossip. They just feel more important because their issues seem bigger and more consequential. So what do we do? Well, if you're the person who's been doing a bit of that, let's say at work for starters, the first thing to do is to recognize when you're on the low road. A good indicator is that you've been bending someone's ear for longer than 2 minutes. That can act as your alarm clock. Then, instead of torturing that person with your complaints and gossip, take your issue to the person concerned. Check your assumptions with them. You'd have to empty your cup of blame and fill it with responsibility, humility, curiosity, healthy skepticism, something like that. Ask questions and get the facts. Take the answers that you get at face value, unless there's real evidence to do otherwise. Don't try to catch everybody out. Achieve some form of understanding at face value. Ask for what you want or need and take what you get. Don't try to force or manipulate the person to give you the answer that you want if they're not willing to give it. Walk away and act cleanly in responsibility based on what you know for sure and what you can control. That's the high road. Admittedly, that works in the corporate world because, for the most part, you can access the person you need to have that conversation with. In the world of big global conspiracies, there's usually nobody you can address the issue with. Conveniently, I say, because if you could find the person to test your assumptions with, you might find your cup of certainty getting bumped. Still, the principle applies. Try to find somebody. In other words, go and do your actual research. And if you can't or won't, then don't go back to your assumptions. Keep the question open, sure, but don't draw conclusions without the facts. And don't spread gossip, period. It's as simple as that. Fill your cup with curiosity, with grounded realism, with peaceful acceptance. Because you know that perfect world you're after? The one that you believe would exist if you could get all your conspiracies proven and agreed to, and the right people in power? Well, that world is not out there. It's in your cup. And if you know somebody else who's taking the low road on conspiracy theories, don't try to explain it to them. Rather, share this information, share this article or this video with them. They'll either get it and redirect, or they'll do what people in my corporate teams do when they don't want to empty their cup of poison. If they find that nobody else is buying their poison anymore, if they find themselves alone on the low road, in other words, they very quickly take themselves out of the team. They find another team or another organization, one that's on the low road, where they can spill their cup and get a reaction. The irony is that they think they're the ones who are self-aware, where nothing could be further from the truth. I just smile and wave. I don't waste energy trying to argue with them. And so thank you. If you found value from that, please remember to subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.